Hello, everybody. Oh, it's so good to be back. I am so sorry I got stuck in my tent, but all is well. Thankfully, somebody out there called the rescue Mounties, and they came and saved me from my tent. But it was kind of too late to the point where I started to be malnutritious. But don't worry, the doctors have me I can't take real vitamins. They make me go. So I'm eating these little vitamins. So it's so yummy, and I've got this little Pedialyte stuff here. I just have to swoosh it. And I'm all, I never do well eating and talking to you at the same time. Anyway, it is good to be back. I'm here, back in my quarantine room, and I hope you're doing okay and you're staying safe, and keeping your distance and not touching your face and wearing your mask. I don't have to wear a mask. Usually I just go like this, and I tie it around, but I'm all by myself in my room, so it's okay. So I hope you're doing okay, and I'm ready to start my show. Today on the show, have we got a whopper of a story for you, and a guest that he has never been here before, but he is a good one. He is an inspiration to us all. So boys and girls, let's give it up for Elisha. Elisha, hello! Thank you for doing my show. How are you doing today, Elisha?
Doing well today. I too am finding myself staying by myself, following the social distancing rules, and so that's why I don't have a mask as well.
Yes, that's very good of you. Now, Elisha, the life of a prophet, when you have to be quarantined or distanced, as we all are, do you often find yourself just talking to yourself because you can't go out into the crowds?
Yes, that's very true. Although I was actually doing a lot of that before the whole quarantine thing as well. I would hear voices that would then allow me to talk to them.
Yes. Do you know, sometimes, Elisha, I hear voices too.
Yes,
but
I'm
I
sure
doubt
you
it's
do.
the same voices.
It might be.
Maybe. Who knows? Well, Elisha, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You are a prophet. We know that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, so yes, I'm a prophet, and I was actually out in the field, and a man named Elijah came along and said, "Follow me," and so I did.
Yes.
So then I became a prophet.
You took over his job. You took over the company, per se.
Correct. Yes. So.
Yes. How is it? What is the life? Is it fun being a prophet?
Well, it's fun from the standpoint of being able to hear the word of God and having God speak to you and being able to interpret and have this ability to know that He has a plan for us, and that plan is out there. And as He's working through that plan, you can tell He's got a lot of things figured out that we don't even know yet.
Yes. Now, Elisha, today the boys and girls have been talking about the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit which is not apples and bananas and kiwi and kumquats and all of those others. Paul,
I have a question for you. With the fruit of the Spirit, do you end up with fruit flies like we do with the bananas and the apples sitting out on the counter?
That's what I once asked Paul, and he just said I was ridiculous.
Yes, I think it's a reasonable question, but moving on.
Moving on. So they're talking about the fruit of the Spirit, and Paul was way before your days, or way after your days.
Yes.
But he talked about when we are in God, when we are following God, and then maybe you have experiences too, Paul or Elisha, that God gives us the ability to love other people and to have joy. We talked about joy a couple of weeks ago, and today we're talking about peace. and how God gives us peace. And it made me think about your story. And maybe you can remember this story of you and your servant were out camping in a cabin somewhere off in the mountains.
Yes.
And you something happened. You were making a king happy. Is that true?
Yes. He asked me to ask some questions, and then of course I helped interpret those questions.
Yes. And then the king, the Arameans,
Yeah.
They weren't happy with you, so they sent an army against you.
Yes, they actually felt that I had betrayed something there, and I was just simply listening to the word and then interpreting it, and they said that I told stories that I shouldn't have.
Yes. So they got mad and they came after you.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know this, Elisha, if you've seen my shoe before, but I have my little Stuffy here. Say hello, Stuffy. Hello! It's nice to meet you, Elisha. Not to be confused with Elijah. Ja and Shah, two different sounds. All right. Thank you, Stuffy, on that clarification.
Yeah.
But so today we've been practicing. I was stuck in a tent, Elisha, and so we've been practicing, ready to talk to you about this. So you, in the morning, your servant walked out and saw the great army, and he went, I am so scared. And he went running into you, and you said, what's going on? And your servant said, oh, there's a whole army before us. Is that how it went, Elisha?
That's exactly how it went, and he was so scared. I mean, this army was huge, and there was just a few of us there.
Yes.
So, so what I did is I said, it's okay. We have the word of God on our side. God has a plan. And
you said
it's
okay.
It's okay.
Elisha, did you forget there was hundreds of them and like two of you? It's the fine. Numbers, the odds of the 2 versus hundreds. Now, I wasn't good at math, but I know that hundreds is greater than 2.
Except for God told me there's an army of angels behind us.
What?
An army of angels. Yes. And he spoke to me and said, it's okay, I have a plan, and there's an army behind you. Don't worry. And you know what? I was peace. It was peace at that point. I was like, it's okay. He's got this.
So you didn't like stress, sweat?
I mean, there's an army out there, but God says, it's okay. I've got a plan.
So did you shake in your boots?
No shaking at all.
No shaking or sweating?
No sweating. Well, it was pretty warm, but not because of the sweat.
Yes.
So, I mean, it is a desert after all.
You're right. So no stress sweating.
Correct.
So you're standing there, and your servant is standing there too. You've got hundreds of the armies against you, and God said, don't worry. And you look behind and you see these angels. Now, Elisha, were you stressing when he first came into you, or came to you and said, there's an army?
So, I mean, we needed to make sure we understood what God was going on. So when he ran in, it was like, okay, an army? Like how big? And he said a lot of things that it was a lot of screaming and babbling. So I really didn't quite understand. And so then I prayed about it. And you know what? And you know what he did? He actually helped us he actually said, hey, let me open your eyes. And you know what we saw?
What?
The angels.
Yes. Wait a minute, so I just need to clarify, Elisha. Your servant was outside, and he came running in with his eyes closed. Didn't he run into some? Do you know when I run? Watch this. When I run with my eyes closed, I go, oh. I run into things. Didn't he run into anything?
Well, I would say he ran into the stress of the army out there until his eyes were opened by God.
So when you say his eyes were opened by God, you don't mean his eyes were like closed.
No, that he had not seen the angels. He had not seen that God had a plan. Instead, he just saw this massive army out there.
Yes.
And so God said, I will open your eyes. And guess what? He saw the angels behind us. He knew that we had angels surrounding the army.
Elisha, would you say that ever since then, would you say that you've got a sense of peace no matter what happens in your life?
I have peace because I know God has a plan for me.
How would you describe peace to the boys and girls?
Oh, the peace is the idea and the knowing, that feeling of somebody's got this. The feeling that it's going to be okay. So really the peace is the absence of the anxious feelings that you have when you worry about things. God's got a plan. And what's really interesting is, the story that you guys have read about what happened with me is really just a foreshadowing of the bigger plan he had to come.
Yes.
He's kind of telling us about this thing that he's going to be doing in the future, which might have heard about.
I don't know what you're talking about. Could you please enlighten me?
So
could you open my eyes?
So he ultimately is letting us know that he has a plan for us. He has a plan. He had a plan for us with the angels to protect us. And then he had a plan to actually send his son to earth to be amongst us and show us how to live a sin-free life. And then send that son to die on the cross for us so that every time we screw up, every time we mess up that pattern, guess what? We can ask for forgiveness and try it again.
You're talking about Jesus, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Oh, Elisha, you are good. You are very, very good.
And that's what a prophet does. Lets you know what the future holds.
You're a good man, Elisha.
Well, thank you.
Elisha, thank you so much for being on the show and talking about and clarifying your story and what it means to have peace and have your eyes opened.
Well, I really appreciate you inviting me here. I know you could have gotten all kinds of other guests. You could have gotten, all kinds of different folks, but you chose me. I mean, you could have gotten somebody from the 1400s or the 1600s, but instead you decided to go back in time and get somebody out of my century. I mean, I appreciate that, because sometimes, it's underrated, the Old Testament. So thank you.
I do love the Old Testament. And has anyone ever told you, just sitting here talking to you, I've had a lot of guests from the Old Testament, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the guy named David.
I've heard about him, and decent guy.
Has anyone ever told you that David looks somewhat like you?
I have not heard that before.
He does. There's a little bit of trivia. I know David is before your time, but David looks a lot like you. And needless to say, I would even say that the Apostle Thomas looks a little like you.
You think so? I wonder if David is on Ancestry.com. Maybe we could get our DNA test, see if we're related.
I think that's good. Maybe my producer can get the connection and see if you are related to, in fact, the King David. But let me just tell you something. David has a lot of show muscles, and so I don't know if I don't know about that David sometimes.
Yeah, many years ago I used to. Not anymore.
Well, Elisha, thank you so much. There you have it, boys and girls. That has been Elisha talking about his experience and God's peace that was given to him, even though he was surrounded by a big army. We know that God is always there for us, fighting for us, protecting us, because he loves us. Well, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining in or tuning in. We will see you next time on the Seemore Scripture Show.